Hi friends, welcome or welcome back to Brilliant Blue Reviews. My name is Heather, and in this video I'm going to be giving you my review of the movie House of Dynamite. Okay, house full of dynamite? I think it's just House of Dynamite. This is a Netflix production, but I swear I saw that it was going to be coming out on Apple TV, but that doesn't make any sense. It is in limited release in theaters right now. On the day I'm seeing this, it's Tuesday, October 14th. I think it's only out in theaters for 2 weeks, and then it's going to go straight to streaming, which happens a lot these days. I really wish they'd leave things in theaters longer so that not only did I have a chance to see things in theaters, but also so that it would help the poor, struggling movie theater owners to actually make some money on things before they go to streaming. Remember back in the day when something would be on the theaters and then you'd have to wait like 6 months or a year before it came out on VHS? Those were the days. All right, this movie was probably the most frustrating movie I've ever seen in my life. Maybe not. I mean, there might be something more frustrating, but I was very frustrated by this movie, and I will tell you why without doing my best not to give you spoilers, which is going to be tricky. But okay, this movie was rated R, and the main reason it was rated R, I would say, was language. There was no violence, there was no nudity, there was no sexual content, there was no, I don't even think there was any smoking or drinking. No, just profanity, which was totally understandable given the situation. And I think the other reason that it might have been rated R was probably just the seriousness of the situation that the movie was depicting. So this movie is directed by Catherine Bigelow, who won an Oscar for direction for The Hurt Locker. So if you saw that, you kind of know what her work is like. And the music was by, Volker Bertelmann, okay? I had to double check his name. Now, this music was so familiar to me, and it was very powerful music. The music was a very important component of the movie. And I would say that just for the music alone, I'm glad I saw it in the cinema. Otherwise, there wasn't any real reason why this was necessary to see on the big screen, like visually. I think it was still powerful seeing it in a movie theater, but it was really the surround sound and the music, the quality of the music, and the music was a very big part of setting the mood and the tone of the film. And I was sitting there like for the first like half hour going, gosh, I know this music. What is this? This is so familiar. It's not exactly the same, but it's pretty darn close. And I finally figured out what it was. It's the same composer as Conclave. So the same guy who did Volker Bertelmann, who did the music for Conclave, which I raved about, saw multiple times, including in Germany. He did the music for this movie too, and it's very, very similar, actually. It's all orchestra. It was the London Contemporary Orchestra that did the music, and they listed all the musicians and everything at the end. It has a stellar cast with a ton of people in it. Lots and lots of people, including the guy, what is his name? The actor who's in the TV show The Night Agent, which I'm pretty sure is on Netflix, which has had 2 seasons, I think, and we're waiting for season 3. Pretty sure that's right. That guy, he's an important character. Can't think of his name. The guy who plays Peter on The Night Agent, he's in this. The other 2 main people that you'd probably know the best are Idris Elba, plays the President of the United States, okay? But that's not revealed to you until the 3rd act of the movie, and I'll explain that in a second. And then the other one that's probably most familiar to you is Rebecca Ferguson. Rebecca Ferguson was in a few of the Mission Impossible movies. She was Ilsa. She was also in Dune. You probably would recognize her from that. So she's in this. Okay, interesting thing. Neither of those people are American. And in this movie is basically entirely, set in the United States. And these are the President of the United States, who obviously has to be an American-born person. And Rebecca Ferguson is playing, she's actually military. She's a captain. I think she says she's a captain in some branch of the military, and she's basically in charge of the White House Situation Room. So she's kind of running things there. There's a guy over her who I almost think was the secretary of something. I don't know. But he gets pulled out because he has to be evacuated for, to go to the bunker or whatever. She's left to run things in the Situation Room and be in charge. The basic gist of this movie is that it's an ordinary day. Everybody's just going about their business, having their ordinary lives, and a nuclear weapon is launched at the United States, and nobody knows where it came from. These satellites that are supposed to detect the launch of a nuclear weapon did not catch the launch. So all they know is that it came from somewhere in the Pacific Theater. The thing about this movie that was kind of unique is that it was done in basically 3 acts. So it was what I'll call Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3. The movie was actually divided into 3 parts, and the parts overlapped with each other. So it was kind of like one of those movies or books or something where you see the same exact story from different people's points of view. First, we're going to see it from these people's point of view, and then we're going to see the exact same situation from these people's point of view, and then we're going to see the exact same situation again from these people's point of view. That's what it was. And I almost think that she did it that way because there were so many people's point of view that we had to keep track of, that if she had tried to include everybody in just one straight thing, it would have been overwhelming to try to keep track of the people. I think is kind of why she did that. I'm not really sure. But each part ended in what I would call a cliffhanger. The thing that frustrated me about this movie was the ending. Now, the ending of each of the 3 parts, like the first part and the second part, were very frustrating too. But the final ending of the movie was the most frustrating. I'll say that. So the first part focuses on Rebecca Ferguson's character, her family. Her husband is taking care of their little boy who's sick, and this other guy that works with her there in the Situation Room, and like the people in the Situation Room. And then it also focuses on this woman who works at FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or what does FEMA stand for? Okay, there's her. And so they're basically focusing on these 2 sets of people in the first act. And then that part comes to a close. And then the second part is all the the first part is also the military people who send up the EKCs, is that what they were? The missiles that are supposed to intercept the nuclear warhead, the weapon or whatever that's coming at us. It's those people. And I was not paying attention at the very beginning of the movie, and I missed where they were supposed to be located. I think it was Alaska, but it said at the end that it was actually filmed in Iceland, so I'm not exactly sure. But these were American soldiers that were manning the station where they like monitor these things happening. Okay, and so then it was them. They were in the first part too. And then the second part was all the military guys that were like on this conference call, this national security conference call. The second part was also this one woman who was with her little boy at Gettysburg for the annual Gettysburg reenactment. And she was the expert on like North Korea, and they were trying to get her on the phone so she could talk to the president, so she could explain to him like whether or not could North Korea have launched this thing and stuff like that. In the third part, it was focusing on a couple of specific people from the military, or from the guy who headed the Pentagon, so the Secretary of Defense, or the Secretary of War, as our current president decided to call it. Who else was in the third part? Oh, the president. So you didn't see Idris Elba until the third part of the movie. And so it was very much focused on him and his Secret Service detail, and also the Navy lieutenant commander officer who followed him around with the football, with the bag, with all the stuff, with the nuclear stuff in it. It was him and the president, and going on the helicopter and stuff. And also the president's wife, who was in Kenya doing something with elephants, and he was talking to her on the phone. So it focused on different sets of people in each part. But each of the 3 parts took you to the exact same final moment, and then they just stopped. Each time you're kind of hopeful, like, are we going to find out what happened next? And the frustrating part was, no, you don't. All 3 scenes, if you will, all 3 acts of the movie all ended at the exact same moment, with the president saying the same thing, basically. And so I found that extremely frustrating. Now, it was very well done. It was very well produced and acted and directed and everything. So this is what I'm going to say. I'm going to give this movie a 4 as far as the quality of the filmmaking, okay? But as far as how much I actually enjoyed it, I'm going to give it a 2. Because I actually really didn't like it, because it was just so frustrating to me. The way it ended and everything, and the way it left you hanging. Repeatedly. It repeatedly left you hanging. So maybe those average out to a 3. I don't know. But different people might have a different opinion. If you happen to see this in cinemas, or even if you watch it later when it comes to streaming, I'd really like to know people's thoughts of what you thought of this movie. Because I'm kind of conflicted about it, really. I'll be curious to see if it gets any kind of awards buzz. Yeah, I don't know. It definitely was not my favorite. I mean, it was good. I was fully engaged and into it, and it's fast-paced and tense. One of the things that I really liked was you saw the moment that people realized, oh crap, this is actually happening. And in all 3 parts, there were people who they kind of focused on their face when you saw them realize, oh no, this is actually going to happen. And like the horror in their face was something really profound, you know, and interesting. The quality of the film, I think it was very good. As far as how much I enjoyed it and got anything out of it or whatever, I didn't care for it. So it was kind of a mixed bag. So that was my review of House of Dynamite. Let me know your thoughts. If you like this video, be sure to give me a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss any of my upcoming movie reviews. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.